righty. It is 6 p.m. I want to call the Finance Committee meeting to order. First item up on the agenda is Cass Transit funding, and we've got Mike Standahar here. Mike, if you want to sit there where the gizmo is
Thanks, Dave.
and give us your presentation. Mike has met with myself, Jacob, I believe. I think the mayor was in on one of those meetings.
Indeed.
To kind of try and bring us up to speed on what's going on with Cass Transit. So go ahead, Mike.
Well, thanks, Dave. I appreciate this opportunity to come before this group and tell our story. I'm here in a dual capacity. One, I am a county commissioner, but perhaps more significantly, I am, as of January 1st, the president of the Cass County Council on Aging Board of Directors, which is sort of like taking over the Titanic as it's about to hit an iceberg, perhaps. Anyway, here I am. And I think per Dave's excellent suggestion, I think each of you has seen an outline of my presentation this evening, fairly significant outline. And there are just a few updates to this. And I'd also like to take questions as we go through each part of the outline, because you may have a question point 1 or point 2 or 3, whatever. The first topic I try to deal with, what is Cass Transit? Cass Area Transit, I guess, to be precise. And of course, our Council on Aging is the umbrella organization for that. Just a couple of addendums to the presentation that you were sent. One is that we had consultants come in, and they have been able to determine the cost of the city bus, which is just one small part of the total operation. The city bus goes on a fixed route within the city, and an annual cost they've calculated after going through all their spreadsheet permutations is $92,000 a year. The other, and a second change, I talked about the buses. We have 21 operational and 5 disabled for a total of 26 buses, plus there is 1 service vehicle. Per the recommendations of our consultants, we are going to sell 5 of those. We have to do that pursuant to the NDOT regulations, but that would leave us with a total really of 22 vehicles. I think we're going to sell with a service vehicle and I think 4 buses. Anyway, we're going to keep 22 buses. They say that's the appropriate level for the service of our scope. And the third thing I want to emphasize, we talked about the people served, and really the people that are served by Cass Area Transit, people in need, people that have significant needs. You know, a lot of us, we can get from point A to point B with our own resources. There are a lot of people who can't do that for whatever reason or who need this service, and I've outlined some of them there. One thing that's generated some controversy is saying, well, maybe some of these groups are deserving and we can see why you're serving those, but maybe there's other groups that aren't quite as deserving. Why are you doing that? We are a public transit system, and under the NDOT regulations, we have to basically provide this service to anyone who requests it in the order in which they request it. For example, if someone calls in and says, please pick me up and take me to Walmart so I can buy some cigarettes, and then 5 minutes later somebody calls up and says, I need to get to dialysis treatment, we have to take the call, the client of the order in which they call. So we cannot discriminate on the basis how worthy we think their need is. We have to treat this as a purely public enterprise. So are there any questions on the first part of my presentation, which is, what is Cass Area Transit? Or was that part pretty clear? If that's pretty clear, we'll move along to the second part, which is what caused the financial crisis. And I think I indicated there, the major thing was that our federal reimbursement, monies from the federal government that flow through NDOT to the Council on Aging and really to Cass Area Transit, were reduced from 100% reimbursement down to 50%. And that is a really significant number over 2 years. The total reduction, $375,000, as I've indicated there, provide the precise numbers. In addition, our Medicaid reimbursement was significantly reduced. At one point back, I think in 2019, we had $350,000 a year, I think, coming in from a reimbursement for transportation for Medicaid patients, and that went down last year to $56,000. It's a really significant drop over time, and especially a big drop from 2022 to 2023. And unfortunately, and I think this is an issue for past management or whatever, but this organization has had minimal cash reserves for a long time. I think as soon as we got some cash in, basically they bought more buses or cameras for the buses or whatever. And I think that was a problem with the management of the organization over time. And so we were constantly accessing a line of credit. Initially, if we'd get our reimbursement in from NDOT, and we might be good for a month before I'd access the line of credit. And then after a while, we were having to access it sooner and sooner, and pretty soon we were in the hole, and that's where we find ourselves now. So we do recognize the need to have a response. Any questions on how we got into this financial mess? This is section 2 of my presentation, and how this crisis came about. Any questions on that part of the presentation? If not, we'll go to Roman numeral 3, which is what is the Council on Aging's response? Well, first thing we did was to eliminate 2 of our programs, the Senior Activities Program and the Senior Nutrition Program. Senior Nutrition is basically covered by Area 5. We really had a supplemental service there, not really needed. If for some reason we had seniors who needed to get to Area 5, needed transportation, we'll take them, make sure they get their nutrition. But that was really a fairly minor program. The Senior Activities Program was kind of a big deal, a lot of socialization there, and that was great. It just lost a lot of money. We don't really have any funding for the program, so we can't have this program if there's no funding for it. And really how it had been funded in the past was when we got these monies from NDOT for transit, any surplus went to fund the Senior Activities Program, which is another reason why I think we were in the hole a lot, because that program was not funding itself. Another response that we had was that we reduced staff. And let me give you some specific numbers that I think are not in the presentation, or some changes. Our drivers went down from 23. I guess that really now we have 18 drivers, 5 full-time and 13 part-time. So that's a reduction really of 5 drivers. 2 of those were for cause. 3 were just people who retired or moved on or whatever. And so we are down to 18 drivers, which is probably about as low as we can go while maintaining our current level of service. And our management positions, as I've indicated there, we had 5. We reduced 3 of those positions. We no longer have an assistant transit director. That was really never necessary. And so we had to let that employee go. Our director of finance was let go, and our mechanic left for another job. And we're going to outsource the mechanic, and we're also, to some extent, outsourcing our financial services with having our outside accountant do more for us in that regard. Our office staff has basically stayed the same right now. I think we may be reducing a position or 2 there, perhaps, but we'll end up with something less than 30 employees, certainly. The third thing I need to talk about is in terms of the fare increase. This is Roman numeral 3C in my presentation. And we had thought about that increase and proposed that, and our consultant said, no, bad idea. You cannot increase the fares. This is not going to help you because, for one reason, there's some arcane formula that the state of Indiana uses for determining how much reimbursement we get from state funds. This is different from the federal monies. And they said if we increase fares, that actually will reduce our state reimbursement. And they said basically your operating expenses for a transit system like yours should be about, fares should cover about 5% of your total operating expenses. And my quick calculation in my head said we're doing about 7.5%. They said no need to increase fares, don't do that. I think there are a whole lot of other recommendations, but fare increase would be not one of those. We already have some of these recommendations. We're going to be meeting with our consultants extensively. I think about another meeting next Friday. We're going to have the staff and the board directors meet with our consultants, and they've got a lot of great ideas to improve our situation. But that is our, any questions on our response, our agency's response to this financial crisis?
So can you tell us, Mike, how then does this, is the state got a formula they use for this then? And
they have a formula.
You can plug that in to determine where the fine line is? And
Yeah, our consultants really understand this formula, I think, certainly better than we do. There's the federal is basically a 50% reimbursement of allowable transit expenses, is the way I put that. I think that's fairly straightforward. The state formula apparently is not as straightforward, and it does involve some different calculations, which our consultants understand, and we're going to go with their recommendations on that. So that gets us to, any other questions on yes?
A couple questions, Mike.
Scott?
What are the fares per ride right now? Do you charge a fare?
Yeah, we do charge a fare, $2 for within the city and $3 for county. Now, for instance, and the city, I think, is fairly obvious, but some of the county rides, we actually have, for example, what I would call marginal employees who live maybe at far reaches of the county. There's a young man who lives in 12 Mile, to give you an example, and he works at McDonald's. We take him to and from his job. There's a young lady who lives in the area around Galveston, and she works, I think, at Goodwill. We take her to and from her job. They pay $3 a ride. In the city, it's $2 a ride. And our consultant said, leave it at that level.
Okay. Also, who are the kids who don't ride the yellow bus?
Yeah, there's, I guess, a variety of reasons why they might not ride the yellow bus. I think some of it is maybe timing with the parents and their jobs, and so there may be some issues there. There may have been some kids who were kicked off the regular bus. There are other kids who may just don't want to ride on the regular bus for whatever reason. So we do take school children to and from school, a certain number. Again, we don't have any choice in that. This is a public system. If they call and say, we need a ride, we give them a ride, whether, regardless of we think that might be necessary or not, it's something we have to do.
You have are they packing the buses where other people can't get on at stops? Like a disabled person or?
I don't think we have anything like that. I've never heard of that being a problem. And of course, this is a big issue, though, is wheelchairs, for example. We have to have buses that can accommodate wheelchairs for our clients who have that situation. There are a lot of federal rules, very precise regulations that we have to accommodate all sorts of situations.
Okay.
But we cannot discriminate. We cannot say, well, you could ride the public school bus, so we won't pick you up. We can't do that.
Do they pay the $2 fee?
They pay the same fares. Yeah. Now the city bus, there is no fare charge for that. And of course, the rationale for that has been that the city has paid $40,000 a year for the city bus service. And that's been for a figure that stayed the same for a long, long time. One year was reduced to $30,000, I think, maybe in 2021, if I'm not mistaken. But normally it's been $40,000 a year. And the theory is that for that $40,000, city residents on the city bus ride free.
Thank you.
And seniors ride free. There's a program there. I think I highlighted that in Roman numeral 1 of my presentation about Title 3G, I think it is, provides that we get $20,000, I think, from the federal government, and seniors ride free.
Is there a certain age?
I think I'm not sure, but I think it might be 65. But there is a federal regulation, and we get the money, and then they ride free.
Okay. Thank you, Mike.
And everybody else, $2 for the city, $3 for the county. Any other questions to this point? If not, I'm going to get to some really interesting stuff here. And Roman numeral 4 is, what is our outlook? And the first thing I want to say, and this is a positive note, and I hope you'll find this to be positive as well, the county has agreed to provide $100,000 in additional funding for this service for this year. And basically my pitch to the county was, we need to buy some time so we can make some changes, so we can get this service, this Cass Area Transit Service, to where we want it. But we can't do it right away. We need some help just to get through this financial crisis. So they've agreed to provide $100,000. And of course, I'm asking this group for an additional $75,000 And between those two things, according to our consultants, they've worked up a revised budget for us for 2024, and we should be able to break even. So that would be great. In fact, I hope we'll do considerably better than breaking even, and I'll explain why here. I can't go, unfortunately, I cannot go into a lot of detail. I can give you maybe a general idea of what I'm talking about, but there are some major changes that we're working on with regard to this agency, short-term, medium-term, long-term. The short-term, I guess what I can say is that I think it will involve a significant change to our facility where we operate. And I'll just have to leave it at that for right now, but I'm thinking that could be changed in the next few months, sometime in 2024 certainly, and that would reduce our operating expenses significantly. So that's one thing. Now, it's not it's not been finalized or approved or anything yet, but we're working on it. I'm very optimistic that this will happen. A second thing is more intermediate term. I think we're looking at maybe 1 to 2 years, and this would be a change in our structure of the organization, shall we say, just keeping it in very general terms. This one is not at all certain, but if it were to happen, I think it would change our situation so much that it would eliminate a lot of these problems. And then the third thing is more of a state thing that is maybe out 4 to 5 years, where I think there'll be significant changes in terms of the relationship between this agency and INDOT, and I think that will change things also, I think, in a positive way. So I think there are a lot of positive things out there, in addition to the fact that we have these consultants who have these recommendations, which we're basically going to, I think, implement pretty much everything the consultants tell us, unless we have some good reason not to do it. But I think they've given us good reasons in terms of how we can reduce expenses, some very specific ideas there, and also to increase our income. I'll give an example of what they think we can do to increase our income. And this is kind of contrary to what we had heard from other sources earlier, but they think we can significantly increase our Medicaid reimbursement. And they've got some ideas how to do that. And the funding from that would kind of push us back towards where we were before, because, we fell off a cliff in 2023 with our Medicaid reimbursement, which was a secondary cause for our financial crisis. So they're saying, yeah, we think we can turn that around, and that will help us also. So we've got these very short-term things with the consultants. We've got this thing later in the year in terms of changing our facility and our operations in terms of the facility, and then we got these intermediate to longer-term things that we also think will really improve things significantly. So what I'm asking for from the city is $75,000 to buy us the time to make these changes. Glad to answer any other questions that you may have.
You have a ballpark figure. I know you've done a lot of work, and I actually stopped in to see Becky one day when the consultants were there and met a couple of them. They were going through some stuff, but any idea what the value of the buses are that you'll be getting rid of? Or
well, I'm not sure what the value of the buses, but I can put kind of a cap on what we're going to receive from the buses. We can, for anything that is regulated by INDOT, we can get a maximum of $5,000 back to our organization. That's the maximum. Now, we don't necessarily get that, but that would be the most that we can receive. So theoretically, if we sell 6 buses, that's $30,000. Okay, maximum.
Did INDOT have some financial support in the purchase of these buses?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. Yeah, I think that's they have there's a federal grant in there that allowed us to get these buses. Now, we have this one service vehicle. That one there's no restriction on, so just have to see what we get for that. But there's a kind of a limited market. It's not there's no market, but we'll just have to see what happens. We really don't know exactly. They have put in, I think, for a budget for this year, the sale of buses, we get $30,000. That's part of this break-even budget that they've constructed. So, we should get something, but that's kind of like, I think, a kind of a best-case scenario probably on that score. But that would allow us to get to a balanced budget.
I was just curious why they had a say, and that would make sense then if it was through grant money and
Yeah, they do definitely have a say, and you know, we are regulated through NDOT, and the NDOT has their state regulations, and then we got all these federal regulations, so we are a very regulated agency. So we've got a lot of hoops to jump through and on all sorts of things, whether it's, for instance, changing our service. We have to have a public hearing if we're going to change the nature of our service. Changing fares, that would require a public hearing. You know, selling these buses, we have hoops to jump through there. So there are a lot of regulations, and we have these consultants that I think are going to be very helpful in helping us to get through these limitations. Because right now we have two management people. We have a new transit director, and he has done it all in his relatively short tenure. I think it's maybe 5-6 year tenure with the organization. He's been a bus driver, he's been a scheduler, a dispatcher, and now he's the transit director. Because we had our transit director leave voluntarily. And then we have, of course, Becky Harris is our executive director. And Becky is familiar with running not-for-profit organizations, but she really is not experienced in the transit side of things, in the NDOT regulations and such. So we have a limited management pool, so we are very much relying upon our consultants to give us the path forward.
You said the people here in the city that ride the city bus for free?
Yeah, there's specifically, one specific bus, used to be two, down to one bus now, which is what was the original case, and that city bus, that's a free bus.
Because we give you guys $40,000 a year.
That's what you've given us almost every year for a long time, correct. But the actual cost to operate that bus is $92,000 per year, current cost, per our consultants. And they did all the cost allocation. That's the figure they came up with.
And the city bus isn't one that you call up to get a ride. It stops at certain locations. There's a time schedule. You just have to follow the time schedule to get on it. It'll take you certain places and let you off.
Designated route.
Yeah. A fixed route, I guess, is what we call it. We have this transit has its own terminology and whatever. It's a fixed route. Dave explained it exactly right. And so that one bus, city residents ride free. I think anyone, I guess, rides free in that bus.
And this is including insurance and everything for that bus? The $90,000?
The $92,000, they allocated all the different costs in for that one bus. That's correct. They went through their calculations and they came up with $92,000 per year. They actually thought it was going to be more than that. They'd estimated originally at $100,000 to $150,000. They thought just off the top of their heads, and they went through the numbers that came out to be $92,000.
Anybody else have any questions for Mike?
So you said raising the fare would hurt some of the funding that you're getting?
From the state, yes. The allocation formula is affected for some reason, but I think the state obviously wants to have this service provided. I get a strong feeling they want us to maintain the service that we have, and our consultant said that this would reduce our state funding, not the federal funding, but the state funding. That's what I'm told. And I will say this much, that the NDOT has been very supportive of our program. We have the largest rural transit program in the state. When I heard that, I said, well, is that a good thing? Or maybe that's a bad, why are we way out of line? Apparently, all the other rural transit programs in the state are municipal based, but we are county based. So we're bringing people from the county into the city, or vice versa. For instance, we've got a lot of people who live in the city, work outside of the city limits or whatever, and take them to their employment. So it's a much broader scope than than all the other rural transit programs.
Can you give us an idea? I know things are going to change as you make changes, but like right now with the county and the city giving what you're asking, what is the financial amount from the state and the federal, generally speaking? I mean, can you give me a ballpark figure?
Yeah, let me see if I think I do have a revised budget here somewhere. Let's see if I can bring that up, or if I have it. I can certainly say what we got in prior years, for example, because those are definitive numbers. Anything that gives you 2024 would be a
Projection, more or
well,
less.
projection, not an actual number. But for 2023, for example, let's see. The state gave us 913, the NDOT, this is federal money, $913,000.
State gave us?
That was actually the NDOT, that's actually federal money through NDOT,
Okay,
913,000. And that number is going to go down.
right.
That included, some of that money was at the 100% rate, and then it went down to 50%. So that's much less this year. I'm just off the top of my head, I believe the state money, I think is going to, this year, I think projecting like 425,000 maybe, something like that. This is off the top of my head, but that's pretty close, I think. And then so there's really three sources. There's the federal amount, state amount, and then there's what they call local sources, which would be the county, the city, any private monies. And they built in a budget for that. We need to go to a private employer and see if we can get some money from them. They think there's some basis for us to do that.
Who are the employers you're going to ask for that money?
Well, we have one major employer that we have a significant a number of riders going to. There's a second one that has some, but it's really a significantly smaller number. But this one employer has a significant number of riders, and they know of an operation in another state where that employer does fund the local transit. And so we think we have a basis to go to them and say, look, you're doing this in Ohio, we need you to do it here in Indiana, too.
Yeah, because most of their employees don't have driver's licenses.
And that would be a correct statement, Susan.
Right.
Exactly so. So there's a lot of areas we're pursuing per our consultants. Those are a couple of them. But we do need to increase the amount of our local source funding, because we've got the federal, we've got the state, but we need to get the local piece. And what the budget we built together with our consultants suggests that if we had 75,000 additional funding from the city, together with the 100,000 additional funding from the county, plus some of these other things that we've talked about, that we can get to where we need to be on the local source funding.
Is this only for the year 2024 that you're trying to survive?
Well, as I explained just a little bit earlier, we think that with some of these short-term, intermediate, longer-term changes that are, the short-term I'm very optimistic that's going to go forward. That's not a certainty, but high probability. The intermediate term, it's maybe 50-50. In the long term, that probably is going to happen too, but that's 4 or 5 years down the road. I'm thinking if we have these short to intermediate term, 2024, we definitely need the funding. 2025, we may need some funding. I'm hoping within 2 years that maybe we don't need any of this, or we need a very limited amount of funding from this with these changes. That would be what I would hope would be the case.
Would you have, how late in the year do you think it'd be before you'd know what the number would look like for next year? I mean,
that is a good question, and it's part of it is determined upon this intermediate situation.
Right.
I'm really optimistic about this, but I
I'm
can't
thinking
guarantee it's going to
the same
happen.
thing You're probably thinking, Mike, because, we're going to need to plan for this as time gets,
But I would say November is probably a reasonable expectation. October, November, somewhere in that time frame. I'm hoping that things would go along as fast as I would like them to, that we will have some very good news to share with the community at large in the next few months. That's what I'm hoping. And I'm working on it now, but I can't really disclose the nature of that except to say that it certainly involves our facility.
Do you have an estimate of how many people ride the city bus every day?
Well, I know the amount for the year. For the year, it's 9,000 for the year. That's on my presentation, Roman numeral 1BA.
Yeah.
That's the city bus, 9,000 for the city bus, 96,000 for the other buses, total of 105,000. That's a 2023 number. And of course, we have to provide these detailed statistics to NDOT.
Now, if we charged them $1 to ride on the city bus, would that throw NDOT into a?
I'd have to run that by the consultants. It might be a little different. That might be okay. I'd have to see, I don't know about that, but, yeah.
And also, have you ever gotten together with Tyson's and have like a general pickup for them, because, you know, there are different shifts that.
We do have, I think there's an arrangement for the different shifts with Tyson. We do have kind of a regular schedule involving the to and from Tyson. That is correct. That's how we currently operate. I have to say, I'm learning a lot about transit operations. And just in the last couple months, I've learned a whole lot. And I may not have 100% correct answers, but I'm doing the best I can here, giving you what I believe is to be correct.
How much does it cost a year for the program to run successfully?
Well, basically, in the past, it's been right around $2 million for the total program. Now, we're going to have significant reductions this year. And because some of these management positions and reducing the number of buses is going to help and so forth. So I think you're probably looking more like 1.8, maybe 1.7. I'm hoping we can get down to. But we just in terms of the payroll alone, I think we're going to have significant reductions there. But we have cut in terms of the drivers, and then we reduce the number of buses. I think that's about as much that we can reduce. We'll all maintain the current level of service. The management positions, we've really cut more than we should have. As there's been some factors have come in, really things we didn't plan on, but just various personnel issues have allowed us to have really reduced these management positions, and I think ultimately we're going to have to come up with a way to come up with a better management structure, whatever that may be. But right now, our management, we're getting, it's fine for this year, and we're outsourcing the financial part to our outside accountants. We're outsourcing the maintenance of the buses, the mechanics role, we're outsourcing that, and that's fine. I think that's probably appropriate. But I think that we really could use eventually, some higher level of financial oversight. But these consultants are also kind of filling that role for us right now. So I'm fine for 2024 on this basis. I think that we're going to have to look at this long term. But right now, I'm really I asked the county, I'm asking the city to buy us some time to get these changes made so that 2025, I hope, will be a different story. And I'm hoping just even the next few months to perhaps give you some very good news in this regard.
Any other questions for Mike? Jacob or Bill, I know you've been in these discussions. You got anything you want to ask? Or
No, just being their former banker, they've had issues, but he's helped turn it around. Like he did look forward to the management issues, not the current group. They're treading water, trying to get out of that. And I think they're doing the best they can. It's a needed service, for employment and shopping and medicine and doctor's appointments, ice. And it does provide a very valuable service.
thanks, Bill.
Does the city bus run on the weekend also, or just Monday through Friday?
Saturdays,
I believe.
Just Saturday?
but not Sunday. Correct.
No Sunday.
But and I would endorse everything that Bill Cuppy just said. I think he's 100% correct.
All right, the last thing I'd just say, just to summarize what Mike has, I think part of the numbers that he came up with coincide with the contributions we've already made this year. The county had given $10,000 or $12,000, and we had given our $40,000. So we're basically giving the same amount of money to help support Cass Transit through the rest of this year, about $115 each. So
Correct.
the The only way I could see that we can do that without doing some type of additional appropriation, we could use our rainy day fund. We've got 150,000 budgeted. We could designate 75,000 to go to Cass Transit from that fund if you guys are interested in funding Cass Transit for the rest of the year.
What's your experience with, in the last few years, being with the budget, having a $150,000 budget and we spend $75,000? What's the experience that you have? That, is there something else that you know that's gonna come up and we're gonna
Last
need
year, I
it?
think we spent like $8,000 or $10,000 all year out of the rainy day.
Okay,
Typically, we try to keep everybody within their own budget, moving their money around rather than ask for additional money.
okay.
So is everyone okay with moving this to council and using rainy day funds?
Yep.
Let me just interrupt. On the rainy day fund, you said there was 71,000 we'll be transferring?
$75.
Number
That's-
3.
Yes, that's what we're proposing to transfer later, yes.
71? And that's going to be transferred to where?
That's going to be transferred in, but that's just a movement of money. In order to give them money, we have to have an avenue to take it from now. We can't take it out of the general, because then we'd be doing an additional appropriation. That's money that's going out of the general fund into the rainy day fund,
I see.
if that makes any sense to you.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, Mike, well, it'll be on the, what is the May 6th meeting?
Very good. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate your attention to this.
Thanks for all the work you did on
Yeah, I
this.
appreciate your work.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Bill, you want to come up? Bill's here to talk about the internship program. He sent you guys most of the pertinent information a while back. I sent it to you again, but he wants to change a few things in it.
Basically, the internship program, we put this together, I think, in 2016, just a way to try to connect local talent with local employers, hoping that when they go away, they come back. Like, they make that connection while they're in school. A lot of companies are reluctant to do an intern. If you've ever had one, it's not the easiest thing. I mean, it takes a lot of shadowing and working them through it. So sometimes you need a little financial incentive. As I passed out, we've paired right at 100 interns over the last several years, which I think is pretty remarkable. We have some success stories of full-time employment. They came back. Myers Spring, just to throw one out, they've had engineers that were at Purdue and moved here because they end up liking Todd, or they like the environment, they like the work, they have connections here. Workforce to small towns like a Logansport or Pickett, Walton, or whatever, it's teachers. If there's not a connection, we're behind the 8 ball. People don't just tend to move here because we finally have Jimmy John's construction going on. You know, if there's got to be a connection.
I like the way you slipped that in.
Yes. But, you know, so if we can have some tie, some extra layer of a family, they know this, or they're from here, they met so-and-so, it's been very valuable. So, again, we've paired about 100 interns. I'm not looking to increase the budget. The budget it's only $25,000 for 2024. You've already approved that. I'm looking at our $1,000 an intern is kind of out of touch. We're seeing companies paying interns now $15 to $20 an hour, which I'm glad to see. It's increasing, and if you work 30 hours a week for 10 weeks, on average, it's running $5,000 to $6,000 for a summer. And the reimbursement of $1,000 is just kind of scratching the surface. And then next thing you know, we don't use the budget because I'm having trouble paying them because the reimbursement isn't large enough. So I think we can get some more valuable connections if we go up to $2,500 per intern. Quickly, how the process works. they have to apply through me. Susie wants an intern. So she'll say, I've got this guy named Scott Peety. He's going to IU, and he's studying pre-law or whatever, and we think it's a good fit. We make sure that his line of study matches what you're going to do. We don't want an engineer shredding paper in a back office. We want them actually doing what they're wanting to do to see if they like their major. We're trying to also help the parents out. If they have to switch majors now, it's a good time. If you don't like it, you know now, not later. So she then hires Scott. He goes down there and works so many hours. She pays. It's out of their pocket. It's out of Brew's office pocket. At the end of the internship, we show proof that he is enrolled at IU. We interview him and say, how'd it go, Scott? How'd it go, Susie? They did this, that, and whatever, just to validate it wasn't a shredding paper or filing paper. And then we collect the pay stubs, the payroll, QuickBooks, whatever you use, and we submit it to now Tyler. If it's in excess of currently $1,000, over the whole summer, you paid him $5,000, we reimburse you $1,000. So you're out $4,000, we're out $1,000. That's kind of how the process works. And I would like to bump that to $2,500 and just see how it goes.
What, would you be bumping the per semester then to $1,250, or are you going to leave it where it's at, or?
No, it would still be $500. I don't want to, we don't get a lot of spring and fall interns unless they go to Ivy Tech or IUK. The summer is when we have the most. Right now, they're ramping up. So we don't have the interns sitting. I'm not placing the intern. I get the word out to the companies. They happen to, interns call me, companies call me, then we try to match them. This week, we've placed an engineer, we've placed a financial person that we're actually hoping to put at the hospital to kind of run some projections of seeing what programs might work there. We've had the Y, we've had anywhere from Tyson to the church and anything in between. So it's private, it's public, it's nonprofit. We've had some good matches.
So have you already told them this year that you're going to change from $1,000 to $2,500?
I told them I am attempting to.
Okay.
Count on 1,000. I'm attempting to get it bumped to 2,500. If successful, I'll let them know. But I told them I wouldn't know till May 6th.
But it keeps our budget at 25,000.
Yeah, I am not asking for an increase. If we see it going gangbusters, then I'll for next year increase 30, 40, whatever it might be. But for this year, no increase.
So then you have a limit of how many interns you can do? Be
10?
right? Okay.
Yeah. And, the numbers don't lie. I mean, since COVID, it really dropped off. But we also get companies that say, well, I'll do 3. And then they learn from their mistakes. They bring them in, they get to $1,000, they say, okay, we're done. And that's really not what we're after. So we'll lock it down better. So it'd be 10 solid internships.
How many interns go through the internship and return here to work? Few?
We
maybe?
track it loosely. I would say, off the top of my head, 10%. So 10, which is pretty successful. Now, there might be more that came back and just tried something else, but specifically to that company that they were in, I would say 10 to 20%.
Okay. And you say local business don't like doing this. Why is that?
I don't say they don't like doing it. It takes a special person to have an intern for 3 months. It is, you have to have, like a teacher, you have to have that mentor mentality to show people around, it slows you down. Now, there's some things that helps you speed up That's usually towards the end, and then they leave. But it does take some time it's more of a time management issue.
So this is not, it's more like a training period, not just a summer job to some of these people?
We don't allow it to be a summer job. It is their major. I like to see like I said, when Susie applies, she's going to show me that they're going to do research at the courthouse, they're going to look at case law, they're going to interview clients, it matches what they're doing.
Questions for Bill? You've got, I sent you the ordinance, Bill sent you the ordinance, you can look at it there. So basically, down there where it's highlighted, we'd just be changing the 1,000 to 2,500 if we wanted to move this forward to council. How's everybody feel about that?
It's worth trying for this year.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
It's worth trying for this year?
Yeah. I think it's a good idea.
It's your money, right?
Not my money, your money that you've already budgeted.
But we've already committed it.
Yeah, it's
He's just changing the way he spends it.
It's in the economic development seated dollar, it's in your seated budget. At one time, it was at 35 or 40, and I wasn't using it, so we just bumped it down. There's no reason to have it up here if we're not going to use it. I hope we get back to there.
Cam, how you feel? You good with this?
Yeah, it's worth a shot. It's just for 1 year.
All right.
It'd be for the rest of 2024.
All right.
Okay.
All right, we'll move this forward, Bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Rainy day fund. Okay, I sent you, well, I'm not sure I sent you this. I think I just put it in your packet there. On the first print out there, it shows what our general fund budget for last year was. It was $12,767,361. And if you look at the next page where the check mark is, our budget came in at the end of the year at $12,006,602.30. And we had encumbrances, which means they had commitments out, where we encumbered $285,000, which brought that number that was left. We were under budget by $475,000, basically for the year, which means by state code, we can move 15% of that into our rainy day fund. And that's the amount you were talking about earlier, Scott, the $71,000. We can move that into the rainy day fund if council wants to do that.
Does that need to be decided for anything now or just into the fund?
No, it would just go into the fund. It's just strictly to put it in the fund.
Okay.
Anyone have any questions with that or any concerns about doing that?
Why is it better there than where it is?
Just gives you some money you can set aside, and then if you have unforeseen things come up during the year, you've got a fund there that you can use.
And you wouldn't have to make if it wasn't in the rainy day fund, then you would have to make an appropriation? Or?
Either way, you'd have to make an appropriation if you're outside of the budget for the year.
Okay.
But Dave, when you put the $71,000 into the rainy day fund, so right now you don't have $150,000 in the rainy day fund, but we're gonna get on when we transfer.
Right now, the
this
rainy
money?
day fund actually has, and I think if you go to the very last page that you've got there, you look up at the top, the rainy day fund is fund number 242. The current fund has $306,000 in it. That's what the fund has in it. The budget for this year is $150,000.
Okay, I got you.
So this would bring that up to $371,000, so we'd still basically, if we spent $75,000, have about $300,000 in there.
Yeah, you're basically just transferring what we are gonna.
In a roundabout
Possibly.
way, yeah. Yeah. Everyone okay with doing that?
Yep.
Okay, we'll bring that to council. Well, I'm thinking Rob might be up next, I'm just guessing.
Dave, are you gonna talk to, you're gonna get these ordinances done for the next May 6th meeting?
Yeah, I'll get with Tyler on these, and Bill, you'll make the minor amendment, won't you, on yours, Bill, and send it to us?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, infrastructure fund. Let's see, let me get rid of this, that was the. Gave you a printout that shows what the budget for this year's infrastructure fund was. And you've got a quote there from Rob. You want to tell him about this property, Rob?
Yeah, 417 13th Street. That prior to me coming in as the building commissioner, they tried to bring it in to condemn it. I don't think it actually got fully condemned. It is a house that has sat with a tarp over this thing for a whole number of years. I couldn't even tell you how many. That tarp has now actually been blown off there, and it has exposed the big hole in this roof. So the structure itself, at least on one side of this house, is not in good shape. It has been rained on, snowed in for many years, and it's I brought it in and condemned it. I would say probably 2 years ago, I think, 2.5 years ago. The guy has tried to pull a roofing permit, but has never committed to redoing the roof. And I think it is beyond its time now. Not salvageable, at least the roof part, and probably the floor in the one side. So it's time for it to come down. End of 2023, I've worked on, bringing down 2 houses. One of them was a firehouse in Dennison. And I am now I've spent the money on the firehouse to demo that one down. And now I need to bring this one down.
Is this the bid just for 417 13th Street?
Yes. Yep. I had actually taken and gotten 3 bids. This is the lowest for this property.
Have taken in 3 bids? Okay.
Yep. This is the lowest number for that particular property. So,
Once it's demoed, does that become a city lot?
if they do not pay, there will be a lien attached to it, to the property. And then from there, Kelly and I have discussed how we do this. We will probably foreclose on that lien, and we will more than likely acquire that
Okay.
lot.
So that could be for sale in the future?
For sale, yeah, or put into some kind of program like in the past with some of the other lots that has, when they was doing Revere Homes, I think.
Oh, okay.
That
That type of program?
But yeah, it would be something that the city would probably acquire because I do want my $17,900 back.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Does the owner of this house live in Logansport?
What's that? Yeah, he hides a lot.
He does what a lot?
He hides. He sometimes doesn't answer the letters and comply with some orders, but yeah, he's somewhere in Logansport. He will be notified the day that we are going to be tearing it down. But yeah,
So you do or you don't know where he lives?
kind of do, and I don't want to let that out right now.
So I'm curious, if we put a lien on this, you said something about how long would the lien have to be on the property before we could,
It would just depend on him,
on the
taxes.
foreclosure?
Yeah, that would something that we would have to talk with Kelly on.
Doing a foreclosure
Because it
case.
would go into tax sale.
Yeah, so doing a foreclosure case, you can choose to do that, or you can also just let if the property taxes have been paid, then this property's not gonna go on a tax sale. So if he's paying a property tax, that's not gonna happen. And doing a foreclosure case takes every bit of 30 to 90 days. It's not a quick process at all.
No, it's not, and neither would the other way going into that.
There is no
so
quick
it's
process.
not
I was
a
just
quick-
curious, because we've never done that before. We've typically
Right.
just let them go, and they've ended up in the commissioner's sale, is where those usually end up, because nobody's going to pay that amount for a
Right.
lot once it's tore down.
And those commissioner sales, those properties are cheap,
Yeah,
yeah.
So,
okay. But we can use we have 25,000 in the infrastructure fund that we could use that 17.9 out of there if the council wants to. That's why I put that in there for you guys. We just have to transfer it into the capital expenditure column, and Rob could pay him out of there. What'd you have budgeted, 20 in your budget, and we use that on 19th and Broadway?
yeah, 1,900.
Well, he's not wrong about this house. When we had those students, just this, on Good Government Day, they were asking about,
Yeah,
well, they asked about the blight housing, and so I drove them by this house because I just had read about it, so.
yeah, and it's a problem house. You know, code enforcement has a lot of issues with it. You know, squatters go in there. Police departments had me out there several times since it's been condemned, so. It's just, it's an unsafe structure that we need to probably get it down.
Okay. Everybody good with moving that forward? All right, thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Rob?
Can we help you back, Eric?
I got pizza. I was supposed to come through some glass doors. I feel like I did a good job, but.
Is it paid for?
I got a price down here, so I'm assuming not.
Through
Got
the
a name on it?
City building glass doors.
Well, you
Nobody in here called?
found the right spot.
What's on the pizza?
Did they say to come to the third floor?
Say glass doors.
What kind of pizza?
Like 4.
This is the only one you found any bodies
Probably
in?
Greg downstairs, I bet.
I was literally just told to walk through the buildings on the side closest to the Ferris Tribune and just say, pizza. And now this is the third floor, I've said, pizza.
What
There's
kind of-
that, when you came
All
in,
Greg?
I wonder if is there anybody in Logan's Landing today? Jacob,
I don't know. I can
you want to help him out?
go check real quick.
Hey, if you got no takers and it's paid for, come back.
Good attempt, buddy.
Sorry, guys.
All right, who we got?
So we're trying to get into the bargain.
Bob, Bob, come on up, buddy, you're up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, Bob.
Our mausoleums, they're needing a new roof. We're going to go to metal. And I have 2 quotes. And what's happened is moisture's getting in there, and in the beginning, they had concrete slabs as roofs, as the roof. Then in 2000, 2001, 2, they were rebuilt, and they put runners on it, OSB, and roofed it with shingles, regular shingles. They've deteriorated pretty badly. Moisture's getting in, deteriorating the concrete. That's something that we need to stop before it deteriorates worse.
So will they leave the stripping, the wood strips on there that's on there now, or? will
No,
they be
they're
able
gonna
to
remove
Redo it all?
the shingles, and they're going to go with the OSB that's there with the runners and put new runners over the top to nail the
Sheeting.
metal roofing too. And they'll also put a moisture barrier before they put the metal on, which is very necessary.
Did we only had one of those worked on, didn't we, Bob?
One of those,
Did we have one of the mausoleums or both of them
Yeah,
worked? worked on when we did the insides.
We've worked on both of them.
So it's kind of important that we do the roofs now. I mean, with all the work you had done inside.
We just had them re-based, painting and so forth, what, 4 years ago, 5 years
Hadn't been
ago?
too long, yeah. The fund that Bob would use is, if you look at your last sheet again, I believe it's, what I write on here.
407.
407 fund, if you look at the 407 fund, that's a fund that's basically funded through cemetery sales, correct?
Yes, correct. Great
He has-
sales.
He has $52,000 in there currently, so he has enough money to replace both those roofs. If we want to move forward and give him the approval to do so. We didn't have it in the budget, so that's why he's here asking.
So when you have $52,000 and you want to spend 47.5 of it, then how does that get, that just gets replenished as you do business at the graveyard?
These are very seldom tapped.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just when we have a big repair, like the mausoleums, the last repairs that we did came out of that same fund.
Okay.
And it's a perpetual care fund, which takes care of things that happen over the cemetery that need repaired.
And actually, I think when I was talking to Robin, is this one of the funds that at 30,000 is supposed to go back above that each year into the general? Is this one of those?
I think that's the 493,
493?
yeah.
Because she
And that's
mentioned that,
for
and I
progress.
said, well, we're going to take care of that, probably,
Yeah.
if we move this forward.
Yeah.
But they don't retain a lot of money in them, and they're specifically designated for different items at the cemeteries. So,
And all this money you have in there now is from the sales? of
Yes, yeah, from past, and it gets replenished every time I sell a grave. I think I get 18% maybe off of each grave sale.
the rest goes
To
into
go
the
back into
general,
this
doesn't it?
fund.
The rest goes in the general?
Mm-hmm.
So that's his, that's his request. Any questions for?
I do have one question. The $40,000 is the low quote. What happens if we get into these roofs and needs to be more repair after they get the shingles and so forth taken off?
Well, I had hoped, I put in this, Bob, that we'd request an amount up to 45. I don't know if that's a big enough buffer or not, but I left some money there in case you needed it.
Okay.
In the request that I gave to these guys.
Okay.
Because I had the same fear that you get in there and you'd be back saying, well, I need $2,000 more.
Moisture's a bad thing.
That one that's 47?
No, he's taking, there's
No,
two
that's-
quotes. That was the
Okay.
higher of
That's
the
a
two.
quote. Yeah. It's the
quotes.
other.
40,100.
Yeah. So you'd have a little bit of a buffer there if you
Okay.
needed it.
Well, $45,000 wouldn't be a buffer on $47,000.
We're doing the 40,000.
Oh, we're gonna,
He got two
40,000.
quotes. The
Yeah, so-
lower of the quotes is 40,000.
I see that. So you have to take this one because, I mean. who
That's
does
the one
best
he's gonna-
work? You always just take the low bidder, is that how that works?
He takes the one he's comfortable with typically.
Yeah.
You got to take the low bidder unless there's some reason that you
Yeah,
can't.
I'm comfortable with both of these. He actually did the office roof and did a really good job.
Okay,
He does it all over town.
okay.
And Friels has done work for you out there too, hasn't he?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
he's kind of got experience with both of them.
And I just feel like $7,000 is something I can keep around for another project.
Any questions for Bob, guys? You okay with moving this to council? All right.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, when are they gonna do this? Like, is this gonna happen soon?
As soon as it gets passed, does it have to go through two council
No,
meetings?
I don't think so. It's a resolution.
Okay, all right. As soon as I can sign him up, as soon as it's okay, and the resolution's signed, I'll get him on it, and I don't know how long it'll take him to get to it.
Okay.
Hopefully soon.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Jan?
Well, I'm here to talk to you about this Active Transportation Infrastructure Investment Program. It's a grant program for trails. In the last 3 or 4 years, the state has given out $180 million worth of trail money, and we got zero of it because we weren't ready. And so my request today is actually a non-request, if you can believe that. That's different even than I talked to Dave this afternoon. The county has agreed to actually get this grant written through Stephen Ray's program. So the county's going to write the grant application. So they don't need any money for the grant application, apparently, which is good. But at some point, we have to be able to say in the grant application how much our match is going to be. We expect that the cost of writing or of doing the planning, the construction documents for a trail out to France Park, which has been the big goal for a long time, is probably going to be about $250,000. We think that we'll be able to split that with the county because really most of it's going to be in the county. So we feel like we'll be able to split that cost with the county. That's just a ballpark number that I'm thinking about. I don't even know that for a fact, so, but I guess I'd like to come back and tell you more about that number when I get that number. So, but this is the area that we're trying to get to from Logansport. You can see in the bottom left, bottom right, I'm sorry, there's Logansport there. Let me just kind of, the idea is to get from, let me see, okay, so there's the State Theater, Little Turtle Waterway is right here. And so I'm not touching it because it'll, so, but anyway, we want to try and get it across the river somehow, and that's probably going to be a big expense to get a bridge there, but to go up Wabash Avenue all the way up this way to eventually to get to, thank you. And I'm not sure about what roads we'd be able to do, but either to get down to the back of France Park or to the front of France Park, because the Panhandle Pathway is coming down already to get into France Park. So the goal is to get from Logansport out to France Park, either down here or up there. So we're just, that's part of the planning process. So anyway, that's been, we've been working on that with the Wabash River Greenway program, the regional program that we've been doing the last 3 or 4 years with Tippecanoe County and Carroll County. And so we're trying to eventually connect to Carroll County. That's the big thing. And once we get to France Park, we're not that far from Carroll County. So so that's what the goal of this is. So I'm actually not asking for any money today. But I do want at some point here in the next month, because the grant is due June the 17th. I think because it's a new grant, it's probably not as well known. And so I think we have a good competitive chance to get this done. We've got our master plan is done. We've got a lot of information from the Wabash River Greenway project that we've done. Our transportation and our bicycle and pedestrian routes are already done. And so I think we have a good competitive chance to get, this is a planning grant so that we can be ready when hopefully the next governor does the same thing, when he or she may want to make a big effort to continue with the trails. We're only about 50 miles from the American Discovery Trail, which goes through, it uses the Nickel Plate Trail over in Miami County, up through Fulton County, and then it heads over to the west, over to the Panhandle Pathway, and then on up into northwestern Indiana. So we're not that far from that. And that's our, I think we need to take advantage of being a part of that. Brings a lot of people to our community, and I think if we can make that connection, it'll really help, so.
So since the county has decided to do this grant writing now, you don't need $10,000.
Correct. But I got to come back to you to ask for a commitment, not necessarily the dollars right away, to do whatever match. The nice thing, the one thing that is in our favor too is you could probably consider some of Logansport as a disadvantaged community. And I don't know if we have that kind of documentation anywhere here in the city, but certainly through the schools. My park board member would tell you, we have 67% free and reduced lunches. So anyway, so I think we might even be able to help with that, to help reduce the match that we have to provide. So, and then eventually, we can go after grants for construction. And if you can see here on this, on the construction grant page, that the minimum award is $7.5 million, maximum award is $12 million. And, there's all kinds of grants out there for the actual construction. So I think it's really something that we should pursue, and, it's something we need to do. We need to be ready for the next big grant that the state is going to provide. This is federal grant, and so I'm hoping we're on target for it. So anyway, any questions?
How long does it take for them to determine?
To know what I think I saw somewhere in the information that we received that it usually takes about 6 months for them to decide whether you get a grant or not. So I wouldn't think
For the
we'd
next
need
phase,
to.
you mean?
Huh?
For the next phase, the planning and all that?
Yeah, and so then the planning would be next year once we get the grant. I think it'll be next year before we can say to hire somebody to do the planning for the grant, or the planning the actual trail.
Right, so the grant money is just going to pay someone to give us a game plan.
Well, I get that. I'm just asking what the timeline is to know if the county writes this grant, how soon would you know the next?
Yeah, I think it'll be for federal grants, it's probably about 6 months, I would imagine. So, yeah.
I'm just curious, and I haven't seen your master plan for a while. Is there anything in your master plan about trails?
Yes, yes.
This is all
And
part of
it's-
your master plan? and-
Uh-huh.
Is that the map you just showed us? That's part of your master plan?
It's actually more the part of the bicycle pedestrian plan that the city and the county have. And so we're piggybacking on that as far as what trails to do here in the city, but
Now, going in the back of Friends Park, are you going to have room to put in a trail on that?
well, I don't, see, that's part of the planning process. I don't know how much of it will be on the road or just a product, just a bypass or an extra lane on the road, or how that works. I don't know how that works, and
It's
so,
pretty slim through there, and I was
Yes,
just
it
out there
is.
the other day, and the guard at the guard shack, they got it all painted purple along that road, which means no trespassing.
okay,
And I called them, I said, why is all that? Can I go in the wood? I was mushroom hunting. And they said, we want to keep people from parking on the road because that school buses, it's a big deal.
okay.
And it's
Well, I would-
a narrow road, and they do
and I-
speed down that road pretty quick.
Yeah, I would think we'd have to have some kind of a defined trail for bicycles or pedestrians, so, nothing,
Bike lane.
I don't know if it'll be a bike lane. I kind of feel like it'll have to be an additional lane to that road down there, so,
That's why I'm questioning that room on that
yeah.
narrow road.
Well, and I won't know that until we get some planning done,
Okay.
so,
Plus the river when it comes up and it rains.
yes, it does.
Goes to the road. Okay. We've had difficulty on the trails now, some trail on 18th Street or west of 18th Street, sometimes it's underwater.
Not very much of it, though.
You can't pass it when it's flooded.
Well, and that's why if we can use some of the old 24 or an extra, a little bit of the railroad bed over closer to US 24.
The railroad's gonna let you close to their.
No, no.
Okay.
But there, you know, maybe we can get somewhere close by. That's why the planning is needed. We can't do anything until that planning is needed.
I'd like to see that come to fruition. The red lines are in there, those are the France Park trails in the park, is that correct?
Yeah, those, the red ones are, yeah.
You want to lead up to that and then go to the north to check into the nickel plate, is it?
Not nickel plate, but panhandle.
Panhandle.
Yeah, the panhandle. And they're still trying to work out what they're going to do to get across the train tracks. I don't know whether they're going to be able to, they were talking about building a bridge over the tracks for a while, and then they think they found some land to go along the train tracks, but it's on private property, and getting up to the road that is at 450. I'm not sure what that is exactly right there, where you turn into France Park from the highway. I think they want to try and get it up to that road, and then you can cross over the train tracks on that road.
The path can cross over the railroad tracks, correct?
Yeah, sooner or later we
There's
gotta
railroad
cross.
tracks on Highway 35 to Rural Center, there's railroad tracks. And the path goes across that. Maybe on 16, I'm thinking.
What are you talking about?
Right on 16, turning west out of Rural Center.
Oh, yeah.
There's tracks here that they go over, which is,
I don't think there's any tracks there
There's any
anymore.
tracks up there anymore.
they take them out?
Those are all gone.
They ripped that whole line out.
Oh, okay.
That's all that trail now.
That's what the trail is.
Oh,
The Panhandle Pathway is, yeah.
Nothing,
So
okay.
anyway, I want us to be ready. That's what I'm aiming for. So anyway. Then the other question I had, or can I move on then?
Yeah, I bumped you together here. You want to talk about the tennis courts?
That's what I want to talk about. So the school corporation at the high school is going to redo the tennis courts. They're going to tear out all the asphalt, put down new asphalt, new fencing, new nets, new painting, and all that. It was discussed here this last week about the idea of adding just pickleball lines so that the courts can also accommodate pickleball. Well, I got to tell you, pickleball players would absolutely go bonkers if they knew that there were 10 more courts that they could play pickleball on. And so the school corporation told me that if we paid for those extra lines on those courts, that they would do that. So it's $7,200, and that gives us so much time to develop any further courts that we want in the future. 10 more courts that can be used for pickleball when the tennis isn't going on is going to be a game changer in the community. It really will, because there's a lot of people that love pickleball in the community, so,
I just
right,
had someone ask me-
Jacobs?
I just had someone ask me last week when we were doing Good Government Day, why you don't put a pickleball court at Spencer Park. Why do we just leave that?
Well, that court, first of all, I'll just back up a little bit. I tried to do that 3 or 4 years ago, and the pickleball community said to me, well, you can't just do one, you have to have two. And they weren't willing to do anything to help me, and so I was a little personally put out by their behavior and their attitude, so I didn't do it.
Why do you have
But
to?
that court itself is not in good shape.
Why do you have to have 2 courts? What's the reason?
I know.
I mean, there's not like a pickleball rule that you have to have two.
No.
I don't know.
No.
Why do you have to have two?
That asphalt is just horrible. It's got moss growing on it, and it's really in bad shape. So,
I know.
and I don't want to take any trees out in that area, because those are the trees that get decorated for Christmas in the park, right there. Those are the big ones that get done. So I can't take out those trees.
Yeah.
And to build a bigger court there is probably not possible, really, unless I took trees out. So there's other places in the park that we can do something probably, but I just really don't want to do that there, so.
Well, I think this is a great
Well, I think
solution.
this is a great solution.
I just think this is a
Yeah, I
great
think this-
solution.
I think it is. It's a really inexpensive way for us to help support pickleball,
They
and
have lots of parking.
there's lots of parking, and the only thing that pickleball players will have to remember is that tennis during the spring and the fall, when the varsity, I think it's girls varsity in the spring and boys varsity in the fall, that's got to take priority
Yeah, but those courts will be available
all summer long.
they'll be available all day long.
Yeah, so I'm asking to transfer 7,200 to contractual services, I think is where it's got to go. And then we are going to do a memorandum of understanding with school corporation to go along with this.
It's gonna be
Oh,
open
you
all
didn't
the
get the
time.
packet, did you?
I was gonna say, what are you talking about?
Isn't there a packet laying there for you?
No.
Well, it didn't get to you till today, so,
That's wrong.
did-
I got that.
was it there?
The page
Yep, I
he's
put it
talking
in there.
about.
Okay.
Can I see the page?
This is what he's talking about.
Transfer appropriation.
Yeah, I penciled in the 10,000 because before, things have changed since we talked about 2 o'clock.
Oh, here it is.
I know, it's like,
I see.
Yeah.
I've been in Las Vegas for 3 days, guys. I
Yeah, hey,
literally-
sorry for your loss.
I literally just got out of my car and walked between the I see now, okay. That's a great
So
idea.
what she's asking us is, because those are category changes, to basically allow her to make a transfer from playgrounds to contractual services, and kind of explain to them why you can take it out of there, Jan. just
well,
so they know.
that's where I have funds, and I haven't spent or committed any of those funds this year. And my hope is that I can combine whatever's in that fund at the end of this year with anything that's appropriated for next year for Spencer Park's playground. That's going to be probably a $75,000 playground at least, and I don't know where I'm going to get any more money, but you guys have usually given me $50,000 for a playground, but Spencer Park is a big one. It's well-used. We aren't going to replace the swings, but we do have to replace the large.
Boat one you're going to replace?
Pardon me?
Boat one you're going to replace?
It's the boat, yeah, and all the things that go along with that. But we aren't going to, the swings are in great shape, so I don't have to worry about those. But everything else at Spencer Park needs to be replaced. So, and we'll be getting those new shelters there. There'll be 2 new shelters in that area as well. So that'll really that'll be really a nice area for people to be in. So, but.
Speaking of Spencer Park, so the pavilion down by the river, that's getting done and looks great. So like, are those steel posts just gonna be like that? That's all we're doing?
That's coming. I've got a change order. I'm working on a change order with Shepler to totally take out all the facade, all the wood facade, all the way around. And then we'll go ahead and replace that so we can, because that old stuff that's there won't hold the paint.
Well, and it just doesn't look that great.
Yeah,
I mean, we're spending all this money. I want it to look better
we
than.
want to make it look right, yeah. But it's straight.
Yeah.
The ridge line across you can see that from the road. The ridge line is straight. Inside, you can see everything is straight, inside and out on the outside ridge line, or the outside roof line on the outside there. And it looks great. And it took a while to figure out exactly what their footing was, but once they got going, they really did.
Is that gonna be open soon?
Well, we still have to buy some picnic tables for it, because the ones that were under there were in pretty bad shape. So I gotta come up with some picnic tables. So we probably will spend some money on that. We got electricity to do to it as well, and we've got, we want to put some kind of I don't know, a netting to keep birds from going up inside it, which makes it a more sanitary facility if the birds aren't dropping from above. So,
Well, I think if you paint it blue,
you got blue?
if you paint it get blue underneath, then birds won't go there.
Oh, I never heard that one.
Yeah, I know a guy that he flips houses, old houses, and all of the big porches, he paints them blue, the roofs, because then birds won't go there.
I never heard that. I never heard that. So, anyway.
Might need to fact check that.
But it's come along. It's gonna take some more dollars, but it is gonna look really great. So, and they didn't have to use any of the contingency money that we gave them, so we're coming along good.
Yeah, don't say that too soon.
So everybody okay with her doing this transfer?
Yeah, it's
Will
good.
All
the
that
people-
just for-
Will the people have certain times they can play up there, or it's gonna be open?
I expect so. I expect that the school corporation's gonna have to do something to help make sure that the tennis is priority when the kids are having competition there, so. But I don't know, I think you'll still have to do any scheduling of any tournaments or anything, probably through the school corporation, not through us, so.
Did they approach you about this, or did you approach them?
Well, Mike McCord is our park board representative. He's also the president of the school board, and he knows about what both are doing, and he's the one that brought it up and started making
When
it.
will this happen?
Huh?
When will this happen?
This summer.
No kidding.
They're tearing it out. We can't even use it for our regular tennis lessons that we usually do every summer.
Oh, shoot.
So, yeah. So, thank you.
Thank you, Jan.
Appreciate it.
Jen? All right, last item on the agenda is the non-reverted Logansport Health Fund. This is a fund that we've had for numerous years. It's a bleed over fund basically for health insurance. If we have an absolutely horrible year, we can use this fund to alleviate some of that. The ordinance that I put in your packet says that we can maintain a balance of half of what our budget is for health insurance. Our health insurance budget for this year is $2,750,000. So by ordinance, the balance in that fund should be at $1,375,000. The ordinance also says any overages should go back to the general fund. What I've proposed, and one of the options is to return it all to the general, if that's what the council would like to do. The other option is, and I think you have the numbers there somewhere, look on the last sheet in your packet there that has the balances. What I would like to do is, we've had, the fire department has had a fire engine in their budget, projected in their CIP for several years. This would give us an opportunity to move some money into their non-reverting fund to help pay for the cost of that fire engine down the road. So one of the proposals that I had was to put, and you can see it there, $372,000 basically into that fund, which would bring their non-reverting fund up to $800,000. The thought there being that Tyler and I and a couple others are going to get together to determine investments here real soon to lock in for a period of time. And this would be a fund that we could lock in then to build up interest as they ordered their fire engine. Rick told me right now that the lead time on these is 1.5 to 2 years. So it would give us some time to draw some money into that fund also to kind of help offset those costs. The other was to put $500,000 into our rainy day fund, and the balance $260,000 into the general, back into the general fund. You can look up at the top there. As of April 10th, our general fund had $7.5 million in it. And our rainy day fund, like I told you before, has a little over $300,000 in it. So we have alternatives. We can do whatever we want, but if we just put it back into the general fund, that's fine, or we can do other things. But we have to write up a resolution to say that. So any thoughts you have on it, I'm open for discussion.
I think investing it to get some interest would be good.
Yeah, I think what you have written out looks good.
How did we get this extra money?
how do we get it?
Yeah.
It builds up over time. Sometimes when our claims go over there's a, what do we call the cap, Jacob, the $100,000 cap. We're self-insured up to $100,000. So if we pay out over that amount, then we get reimbursed, and that reimbursement goes into this fund. For, like, we had, 14 claims last year over $100,000. So anything that was above that, we had to pay it, but then our stop loss, that's what it's called, kicks in, and that money goes into this fund. And if it builds up too much, then we put it back into the general fund.
So the money that you want to put into the 483 fund would be $800,000 for the fire department, and you would invest that until and they can order a fire truck and
We
then...
would, yeah, we would
earn
have Rick
interest.
look into what he thinks the exact lead time would be, not push it that far, but we could invest it long-term to start with, and then shorter terms as it got closer. Because the way those things are done, you basically, BJ could probably tell you better than me, but they basically pick how they want their specific engine built.
You can go from a commercial truck to a custom cab, this and that, the size of the pump, size of the tank, the compartment space, 4-man cab, 2-man cab. It depends on what you want, what company's gonna build it, what type of material they're gonna build out of the size of the pump, size of the tank, and or some places can buy a stock truck. But anyway, like, I've been doing some side work, and it's 22 months for a new truck to be built.
Okay.
And that's just more or less stock.
And he feels like, right now, Rick feels like the base price for an engine is probably about $750 to $800. So this would give us the opportunity to kind of plan for some of that.
Yeah, to
Because
be
you can
ready
figure if
for
it's
it.
22 months out, it's not gonna be 800,000 by the time they get it built.
Right.
And he's probably gonna go somewhere else, if I'm not mistaken, because
And he did mention that to me, that the
The
people
last-
he used to deal with at Alexis are gone.
yeah,
Is the chief, did he say that they're in need of an engine soon?
Yeah, it's in there, it's been in their CIP, I believe it has it in for next year, but even if we start working on it now, it's gonna be probably 2026 to get it.
And this account you put this into is interest bearing, is that like a CD or something, like a CD?
Yes, it'd be through the Baker Tilly investment firm that we approved earlier this year.
But you don't decide.
Have
We-
we invested
They
any of
decide.
it yet, since
No,
we've
we
approved
got,
that?
we're meeting on Friday to start.
We have sole authority over this interest fund, is that correct?
Yeah, they would show us what they could provide, and we would basically pick the plan that we wanted to go with for the different money that we invest. You know, the idea is to, right now, we're drawing pretty good interest on our money,
Okay.
but, you know, they keep saying that interest is gonna start dropping off. So the idea is to start investing money in different terms, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, to try to have some money locked in at a better rate before it does start dropping down.
So you know that you could lock this up for a year.
Yeah, and actually, the ordinance that we passed, I believe, says we can lock it up for 2 years now.
I know,
So-
but-
I wouldn't want to
You
do,
don't
I wouldn't
wanna
want
do
to
2
push it
years.
that close with this, but
Right.
it'd be something. And are you here to kind of represent Rick then?
no, he had some other questions, but you're answering pretty good right now.
Well, come on up, come on up.
Is there a penalty for withdrawing early out of this if we'd lock it in for 2 years?
Oh, yes.
Well, there'd be under certain ones, but I believe they even told us at one point there's certain places you can invest where you can withdraw it without penalty.
That's flex CDs, I believe, yeah.
That's all to be determined. They would come to us after they had locked in some, they would put out feelers for different places for interest.
What about the other departments, street department, they got machinery that could be going bad in a couple of years, and police
Well, what
department?
we've done, sometimes bad things can be good things. With WSP out there and all their residual is going in our dump right now, our host community fund if you look on your sheet there, I think it's on this sheet.
What number?
I don't know the number. Yeah, it's number 404. You see an expenditure there, 47,000. That was to buy a heavy-duty pickup truck for the street department. What we've done this year is we've got two pieces of equipment coming out of that fund because that fund is now getting about double what it used to get because of the WSP hauling stuff out there. Have you ever read that agreement, Jacob? I've looked.
Our rate went up on the escalator, so we were getting about 266 per ton, and now we're getting about 383
Is that what it is? Yeah. So we get, and we use that to offset some of the trash fee costs also. But as you can see, the balance has gone up dramatically in the last couple of years, and it's the result basically of WSP and a lot of the construction work going on around here, honestly. So it's a combined thing.
Any idea
So
what
we've
the-
been using the street, helping the street department out through this fund, Scott.
I'm worried if you say, you're gonna get a new truck, everybody's gonna need a new street sweeper or SWAT van.
Well, trust me, they've got them all scheduled.
Yeah.
If you look at the CIT, no department forgets about what they need.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a Christmas wish list.
Pardon?
It's like a Christmas wish list.
So, either one of you got anything on this you want to throw out there, or any questions up here?
The 483 fund will get to 372. We'll move 500 into the rainy day, and general fund gets 260.
Yep. And that'll leave 1.375 in the health insurance. So everything should be in good shape. It'll kind of balance some of these out to where they have good balances in them. Everybody okay with that?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Well, that's it. It's 7:36. We'll wrap this up.